So, Sony has been awfully quiet about their next-gen plans as we get closer and closer to that holiday 2020 release, and yesterday they finally had the big PlayStation 5 reveal event showing off the system as well as a bunch of games we can look forward to playing on it. So today I wanted to discuss what I thought were the highlights of the event, as well as the not so high lights, and answer whether or not I thought this thing lived up to the hype. It kicked off in a pretty weird way. Well, first, it did one of those retrospective deals, like a montage showcasing a bunch of their releases throughout PlayStation's history. But then, the first game that was actually featured during this presentation was Grand Theft Auto 5. Yes, we got a full-blown trailer for a game that came out 7 years ago? Yeah, when I saw this being the first game they showed, I was just like, oh no. This is even going to be worse than that recent Xbox event. It even had the PS4 logo in the corner during the trailer. I'm watching this thing are they trolling us? How is this real? And they did this to announce that the game was coming to PlayStation Plus, as well as, to the surprise of no one, it will be playable on the PlayStation 5. I thought this was such a lame way to kick off the show. I understand GTA 5 is this massive game with a huge fan base, but I don't think anyone turning into this PS5 reveal is looking to see ports of games that have been out for many years. Thankfully, though, things only got better from there. It actually skyrocketed right from there, leading into something I didn't expect to be featured, Spider-Man. I figured we were ways off from another Spider-Man game, but no, Spider-Man Miles Morales is set to come out this holiday. I'm assuming with the title and the quick turnaround time, this isn't like a true sequel or anything, more of a spin-off kind of in the vein of Uncharted Lost Legacy or Xenoblade Torna for my Nintendo fans out there, where it's almost like a souped-up piece of DLC that's sold standalone by itself. And again, it's coming this holiday, so it's going to be a launch game. So while this isn't the full-fledged Spider-Man 2, I think it is going to definitely help move some hardware. I wouldn't say that about many spin-off games, but I think this one will be an exception. And Insomniac wasn't done there. We also got to look at Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, which was actually my favorite showcase, I guess, of this event, as I thought this was the most impressive-looking game that had a lot of gameplay. I think it was a nice demonstration of things that would have been tough to probably pull off on the PS4. They're constantly filling the screen with numerous effects and enemies, environments getting destroyed all over the place. I was trying to focus on specific effects and things happening, but there was just so much going on the entire time that I couldn't focus on anything. And there was this whole Rift thing where Ratchet is able to teleport around and even into different worlds, and it's just like, bam, 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 they're hitting you with totally new environments back to back. If you haven't watched this trailer in 4K, with most of these games, I'd actually say, make sure you watch the individual uploads that are at higher resolutions and sometimes at higher frame rates, because this stream was capped at 1080p 30, and I think that made it a bit harder to appreciate a lot of the visuals that you saw here. This game, after watching it in 4K, absolutely amazing, can't wait to play it. I'll even go as far to say, as a big Nintendo fan, with this game kind of having an aesthetic similar to a lot of Nintendo games, it makes me kind of think, if Nintendo made beefier systems, that this is the visual quality we'd be getting out of, your Marios and your Zeldas. Not saying they're making the wrong choices or anything, okay? They've been incredibly successful lately. I love the Switch. Just one of those things makes you think. And also, coming from that perspective, it does seem like Sony was putting more emphasis on the more cartoony-looking games that I think help draw in the Nintendo-type players. Obviously, Ratchet & Clank, I said it looks phenomenal. There was also a new Sackboy game, not a Little Big Planet game, but a Sackboy 3D platformer that looked really good as well. Kind of like a Sackboy 3D world type deal, and it also supports up to 4 players, so it looks like things are going to get pretty chaotic. Then there was this Kena game that I just adored the look of. Kind of has a bit of a cameo vibe, where you're this little magic user girl, very Pixar-ish as well, I'd say. It seems like it's an action-adventure game. You use melee attacks combined with magic spells and that to fight enemies, along with some light platforming. But also, you have these little fuzzy boys that follow you around that seem to act sort of like Pikmin. There's a sequence where the main character commands them to move this big stone object thing. There's one where they all jump down an enemy to stun them in place. So it seems like commanding these little guys is going to play a significant role in that game. Really looking forward to check that one out. And on the more big boy side, we had that Ghostwire game that was teased at last year's E3. I totally forgot about it. But here we saw more gameplay. It's set in Tokyo, and you go around fighting ghosts with an array of supernatural powers. You see a lot of sequences with the player running around doing that like Naruto bullshit with his hands, and then projectiles come out and shoot at all the ghosts. I really like the look of the game, the design of the enemies, the particle effects, and the world. And don't forget, this is a Shinji Mikami brainchild, which is always a good sign. That guy rarely misses, which, speaking of the mastermind behind the original Resident Evil, let's talk a bit about Resident Evil 8, or Resident Evil Village. Similar to RE7, I was not sure I was looking at a Resident Evil game until the title screen actually hit. I did think the characters looked like RE Engine characters, and some of the recent leaks I read did hint at some of the stuff we saw in the trailer, but still, just like with 7, I wasn't ready. This is another outstanding looking game, particularly some of the interiors they showed just blew me away with how detailed they look. All of the RE Engine games have been top-notch in my opinion. I think Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 will go down as two of the best-looking games of this entire generation, and with the next generation, it looks like they're just going to get that much better. And it definitely looks like this is going to be a bit more action-oriented as well as open in comparison to 7, which is what I was hoping for coming off that game. Don't get me wrong, I really liked Resident Evil 7, but I did feel it went kind of too far down the horror route, straying a bit from a lot of the themes I feel like that you find in survival horror specifically. Which, speaking of, the inclusion of Chris Redfield, a series mainstay if you're not familiar, felt very slapped on with that game. Again, I feel like it was more so just to further justify it having the Resident Evil name. But Chris was featured fairly prominently in this trailer, so maybe with this game we're also set to see things tie a bit more into the Resident Evil world. Either way, I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, extremely excited for that. Then there was the Demon's Souls remake. At first I was like, as many of you were I'm sure, like, oh, is this a Dark Souls? Because I didn't play through the original Demon's Souls myself, I've only watched my friend play it a bit, so a lot of the characters in that I wasn't really clicking like, oh, this is Demon's Souls. But yes, this is a full-on remake of the game that started it all. And just watching it at that first glance, I thought it looked great. But again, I didn't see much of the original. I certainly didn't remember much of the original. And I also forgot how long it's been since the original game came out. And then when I was looking at people's reactions on Twitter, I saw people starting to throw out some screenshot comparisons of what the original game looked like compared to this remake. And yeah, definitely some significant improvements going on there. And then the biggest game probably of the event was Horizon Forbidden West, the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. Out of all these games, out of all the games we've seen for both next-gen systems so far, this one feels the most, to me, like it's going to have that true next-gen feel. I thought every second of this trailer was a visual treat. These environments, the character designs, just how expansive the game looks like it's going to be. I do wish with this one they would have given us a nice gameplay slice. Obviously, this is all in-game stuff. These are surely all parts of the game, but I think closing with like a 10-minute chunk of gameplay would have been a better way to close out the show rather than a lot of these more quick cinematic cuts. I think that would have made it look even more impressive. Also, I was banking going into this event on this game being the big launch title for the PS5, but we didn't even get a release date on it. Thankfully, again, though, we do have the Miles Morales game that is confirmed for this holiday. So yeah, those were the games that really stood out to me. So let's talk about the system itself, the actual look of it, because yeah, I, like everybody else, have some opinions. Similar to what I said about the controller that was revealed a while back, I do not like the look of this system at all. I said on my stream it reminded me of those like Alienware mini PCs, sort of Steam box deals. Others have said it reminds them of an internet router. There have been all kinds of memes made about the look of this thing already. And yes, many have come to its defense saying like, well, what about the Xbox Series X? It's just a big rectangle. It looks like a fridge. For one, just saying a console that everybody already makes fun of looks worse isn't that great of a defense. And yeah, to me, it sort of looks like Microsoft didn't even really try with the look of the Series X hardware. And Sony clearly did try with this, and I don't think they did much better. Now, I will say there's a digital version of the PS5 that's also coming, and that one does look a bit better, because the disc drive looks very tacked on with the physical media version. And I'm still hoping we get an all-black version, definitely an all-black controller. I need that thing to be all black or I'm gonna go nuts. And also, I think if they were smart, they'd get some themed systems out there ASAP. Unfortunately, it'll probably be a while till we get themed consoles and that, but like, you know, the Miles Morales game, that's going to be a launch game. The system comes out this holiday and the game comes out this holiday. And I've seen people doing mock-ups of what a Miles Morales themed console could look like, and that would 100% be the version I'd buy at launch. And again, it's something someone designed in, what, a couple hours after seeing the system? So it's like, come on, Sony. Also, adding to my disappointment, we didn't really see much about the system beyond the look of the physical hardware. There were some other peripherals too, but with this being the big PS5 reveal, I was hoping we'd see more on the specific console features, you know, the home screen, stuff like that. And of course, the biggest omission, the price. I've said it before and it remains my current position. The longer they hold off on unveiling the price for this thing, and the same goes for Xbox, okay guys, I'm not giving Microsoft a pass, but the longer they wait, the more expensive I'm going to assume these systems are. It's June. I assume the systems are going to have like November release dates, and we still don't have price tags for them yet? They're going to have to be going up for pre-order soon. I hope to God some of the like Amazon listings and that kind of went live and were pulled down, I hope those prices aren't real. But yeah, it seems to me like they're holding off until they absolutely have to, which I don't think is a good sign. All I'll say about the price of the PlayStation 5 right now is I'm old enough to remember the launch of the PS3 and how that debacle went. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed the show a lot. There were several games featured that I am very excited to check out, which is finally, and I think this is the most important thing, getting me hyped for the next gen. You know, going into this, even though these systems are only a few months away now, I haven't really been feeling it during the lead up. And yes, I don't like the look of the system, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to end up shoving it in my entertainment center anyway, so it's not a big deal to me. As I have always and will always say, when it comes to selling consoles, it's all about the games. And Sony is definitely looking like they're going to have the goods with the PS5. But with that said, you can have the games that, you know, people really want to play. But man, if that price feels like it's too steep, especially, you know, with all the shit going on with the economy, you could have a pretty rough launch. I'll stick to that. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on the big PlayStation 5 reveal event in the comments. What were the highlights for you? What do you think about the look of the console itself? And do you think this event lived up to the hype? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of the PlayStation 5 reveal event. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter at Johnny Zakari. And join my Discord, ChiGuy and Friends. Link to both in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching.